Okay.
Okay, we are here. Welcome to the episode 2 of How to Thrive in an AI World. The key themes today in the second episode are connection, belonging, and relationship. Stephanie, who might you be? A short bio?
A short bio. I'm a knowledge management consultant and artist
Hmm,
who believes in the power of creativity and art to build bridges and create connection. There, tied it into our theme.
that's wonderful. And if you want to know Stephanie more, you know, go to her LinkedIn profile
Yeah, yeah,
or write a note to
yeah.
her and tell me more. I'm an interaction designer, or actually I call myself culture and interaction designer, but almost nobody knows what that means, so I will say I'm an improviser. And I think, Stephanie, the artist, that really stung, because I have difficulties in calling myself an artist. Some, people say I'm an artist, but to me, this I don't know, the thing that I can't say that I'm an artist. I used to be an actor, actually, originally, but I don't feel like that's not my identity anymore. So artistry, bygones.
It took me a while to sort of be comfortable calling myself an artist because I have an undergrad in accounting and an MBA in IT. Art is not obvious. So, but yeah, it's yeah,
Could
that's
you
what
say,
makes it
Stephanie, that
interesting.
you are?
I'm Before we get going, I just want to tell people to please post their comments in the questions in the chat. We can see it. The reply from StreamYard is kind of hit and miss. So if if I don't respond to you um, in the chat, I'll come back afterwards. I probably do see, like, I see LinkedIn comments, but LinkedIn doesn't let me post back. So um, know that we see you. We may just not be able to type a response. We'll try certainly and address the questions and comments as we go, though. So worked out some of the bugs from last week. I hope we'll see. So, okay. So we're talking about connection, belonging, and relationship. Um,
Yeah, and I loved our relationship with our viewers, because I got an answer to my problem from a participant here, whose name I don't know. It says only LinkedIn user, but thank you, LinkedIn user, that it helps you to call yourself an artist with a small letter, not a capital A. And yeah, and you know what? It's easier to me to say that I'm applying art, an applied improviser, applied artist. That's so much more easier, because that's actually describing more that what I do.
yeah. Well, and I think that applies to my knowledge management practice as well. Um, the art aside, that's very much a creative artistic practice, that curiosity and that iteration of, oh, that didn't work, let's try something else. What else can we
Yeah.
try? Who else can we ask a question to? What other resources might I try? That's a very artistic creative approach to problem solving, to implementation. So yeah, it's yeah.
Oh, actually, I now found out that what's the connection between, like being an applied artist in a very aboriginal way, and facilitation, or coaching, because it's like, if you think of aboriginal artists, it's very different from a postmodern, contemporary,
Mm,
Western artist. That if I have a chunk of wood here, and I would be an aboriginal artist, I would like be curious about the wood and what's the form that wants to come out of it.
right.
the Western artist would be like a modern artist would be, rather than what I want to make from it. So I think that's a beautiful distinction. Is if I work with a group in an organization, I'm more aboriginal in that sense. I'm like being curious and asking questions and what might come out of this. Of course, I might have goals, like always with psychological safety.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. When I think, oh, I'm terrible at remembering things, little details like this and quotes and this, but one of the sculptors, like Michelangelo or one of those kinds of people, said at one point that when he's working with a piece of marble, he's just taking away the pieces until the sculpture reveals itself. So very much that idea, the sculpture emerges. Certainly in the knowledge management work I do, the implementation emerges. So and the usability emerges. By that, it's a discussion. Everything's a discussion. So yeah, and our overall theme of these series is how to thrive in an AI world. And I think bringing that to connection, belonging, relationship, I think that's something that's broken. Those things are something that's broken in the world. We've become too enamored with our laptops and our phones and things, and we've forgotten how to have conversations and how to be curious and ask questions. And that it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to disagree. I read so often about people going no contact and because somebody says something that they don't like, so I'm just not going to talk to that person anymore. Well, you become pretty isolated, when you do that, and create a little echo chamber for yourself, and then you're not learning. Listening to different opinions, having conversations, difficult conversation with curiosity and openness allows you to learn and experience new things, maybe change your mind, maybe not. But it certainly allows for understanding, and you don't have to agree with everything someone says. That they're still decent human beings. They're still worthy of trust and respect. And so, yeah, I get a bit discouraged when I hear about people, I'm not going to talk to them anymore or I'm going to cancel them because they have some belief that I don't go along with. Like, this is just, it's just stupid and isolating. And so I think the technology is further isolates, and that people, use AI bots as friends, as substitutes for real people, because they don't get the pushback. I think about people. There was a case a year or so ago, not that long after AI really came on the scene in a big way there a couple of years ago. There was someone in Australia that had been using it, created an AI bot in the memory of a deceased partner, and then this AI bot called him the wrong name, and he got so upset that this person that he had, or this AI bot that he had imbued with the knowledge of this relationship that he'd had that had broken up, he ends up in therapy because he was so distraught that it had called him the wrong name. And the case I read about last year in I think it was in the Netherlands, this person had this ongoing chat with, again, another AI bot about, he was depressed and concerned about the state of the world, and he had a wife and young child, and the AI bot, in the course of, like, I think it was 6 weeks, told him, to commit suicide. That was his best option, to somehow make the world a better place for his child, was reducing, well, that's crazy. Like,
I sincerely hope that that's not true. But
it was true. I'll have to see if I can find the link again for the news story. But yeah, like that this is a human being would never, a therapist, which is what this person needed to be talking to, a real live therapist would never say that. Would help them see the benefits to their daughter, to their spouse, of treating the depression, and to being here to find a way to live. So yeah, but the AI bot is like, no, your best thing is to commit suicide. That would be, reduce the population of the world by 1 person. That's going to help.
So where are the Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics? Never harm a human being, or what they were like that. I can't remember them, actually.
I don't either.
Embarrassed to admit. But anyways, connection, belonging, relationship, it's like, yeah. I've been in discussions where people tell that they have used successfully AI as a therapist, and like, teaching them a framework, what they like it's like, it's like Freudian or whatever, Jungian, or it's just, be my therapist and use this and this framework. And yeah, they say that it's useful, but it's, of course, it's not the same that with a human therapist, but that's also building a relationship. So we all, human beings, need connection. They need belonging. They need to be part of a significant group, and we need to feel that we are significant members of the group we are acting in.
Yeah.
And what if we build connections with lovely AI bots, not human beings? What happens to us? I mean, then we would be our own respective islands with strong sense of belonging, a lovely relationship and connection with our one or several bots. My Monday bot, Tuesday bot, and my nasty bot, and my kinky bot, and my love bot, or whatever. I mean, because it's like, okay, I've also heard that people use AI with prompts like, challenge my thinking. This is how I think, challenge it.
Yeah.
Disagree with me. And that seems to work too. But now I'm controlling the kind of I know that it's doing that because I told it to do that. So I don't know. I think this is really confusing.
Yeah. What do those of you watching, and I apologize again that we can't actually see you in StreamYard, but what do you think about this AI bots and forming relationships with AI bots, and even, I think, to go a bit beyond that, just the technology and social media and things. I think last week I mentioned this book that I still have not made any more progress on from last week. What was it called? Super Bloom, How Technologies of Connection Tear Us Apart. It's, I think, on the face of it, if you don't think too hard about it, which seems to be a theme a lot these days, is not thinking too hard about things and taking things at face value, that it seems to be a good thing. They talk about using robots in nursing homes and things.
Oh, I actually added accidentally as a revealing, considering how AI can support compassion in healthcare. Compassion.
Okay.
Wow. Actually, I just learned to do a thing.
Nothing like learning in front of an audience. That's interesting. I am interested in that. How AI can support compassion in
Yeah,
healthcare.
I'm actually, I
I've,
was
I've.
thinking,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was. Thank you, LinkedIn user, whatever your name is, because I was in the same kind of territory in my thinking. Then I was thinking that we can, and I heard also practitioners who actually use AI to help people to connect with people better. So it's like you can kind of practice with AI your social skills. You can hone your social skills with an AI bot if you want to. If it's like too much trying to do it with real people first. And
Yeah.
but the transition, I mean, it could be like difficult to let go of the AI and go and interact with real people. I don't know, but
Yeah, and I think of what you described, practicing social skills with a robot. I think of it like a simulation system, that pilots use for flying planes, learn to fly planes, and use simulation systems. And I think that that's a good thing, as long as you recognize that it's a simulation, that it's a mimic, that it's not actually human, that it's not someone to take out on a date to a restaurant with, that it's not human. So practice is one thing. The same LinkedIn user saying it's challenging to think that therapy bits are very helpful for mental health. Thank you, Simo. It's and so compassion is not exclusively human pets, and now robots. Maybe I'm not sure about the robots. Pets, yes, they're living, breathing things, and they're absolutely helpful. Um,
and
but robots are something that someone has programmed. Another human being, hopefully, we're still at that point at least, has programmed. There's no consciousness, and I think that that's, for me, that's a difference, is consciousness. And consciousness is not a computation, right? It's not an algorithm. We have yet to really figure out what that is.
yeah,
And
and
yet we recognize it to a certain degree.
I've been like jokingly saying that if I would be dirt rich, I would hire somebody to be the compassionate, like, fan, not fan, but a supportive person who would say to me, like, after a gig, like, that went so well, how did you come up with that and that, because that was exceptionally good, and blah blah blah. So give me positive feedback. Like, I would pay if it's believable. My criteria would be that if it was helpful, believable, I could if it really kind of like supports my thinking or supports my being, I could maybe consider that. So why not an AI?
Yeah, I don't know. It feels wrong to me. It does. I come back to the consciousness thing, and an AI at best mimics that. I think about with pets. We've got some comments here from someone about pets, and pets react. Pets. If the cat's mad because you went out and left it alone. Or or the dog's happy to see you. Like, and it's,
That's I think that's a big question. Like, and authenticity, and
yeah,
and are we authentic when we say to a kid who shows a drawing and says that, oh, doesn't this suck? And we said, no, it's a wonderful drawing. Are we authentic, and are we, I don't know. I'm just playing with the idea. It's like I'm totally with you, Stephanie, that yeah,
I think the
it doesn't feel the same.
yeah, yeah. I think the authenticity is, certainly if a child shows me the picture, I say, and I mean it, that it is a wonderful picture, that they've done a good job. And do they want to put it up on the fridge, um, or frame it, or, because I'm not judging it against Picasso, or, somebody like that. I'm appreciating it for their effort and their own, what they have created, that they've taken time and used, where are my crayons? Used some crayons and some paper, and created something, then expressed themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that that's worthy of appreciation.
Yeah, me too.
Is it worthy of hanging in the Louvre? Probably not, but there's not much that is worthy of, in the scheme of things, of hanging in the Louvre. So, it's, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, the question, we have a question in the chat, that what about folks that are isolated already or lonely and might find comfort in AI, or maybe in the future like a robotized pet AI or whatever. So
Yeah.
of course, if there's any, like, hey, what do lonely people do, like lonely elderly people do to feel less lonely now? Decades ago they listened to the radio.
Yeah.
Now they watch TV, or
Yeah.
they watch YouTube or TikTok or whatever. Like, not, well, the TikTok elderly maybe come later, but but anyways, I mean, of course, like, if there's if there's no humans that to connect with, to feel belonging with,
Yeah.
then I would say that whatever works for you.
It's maybe better than nothing, but I think the human interaction is important. I think about when I was a kid in the youth group that I belonged to the church that I went to as a kid. We would go to nursing homes. I remember certainly going at Christmas and singing Christmas carols, but we would go and visit nursing homes to talk to the residents there, because some of them didn't have family that came and visited, and I think that those programs are important, and some of those people aren't going to be able to interact with a well, if it's an actual physical robot that goes around to the rooms and looks like a human somehow, then I suppose they can interact with that by voice. But I think about people with dementia and things. They need people to come and visit them too. Is an AI is a robot really gonna, like, some of those people get violent because they recognize somehow the loss of cognitive ability, and they get angry and upset about it. So, certainly it's happened with my family members that have had dementia. They were the sweetest, kindest people, but then the dementia, and they became violent sometimes. What happens if they have a violent outburst at this robot and break the robot? Then okay, pays for that? Um, it's there's all kinds of
Well, those seem to be problems that could be probably. I think they can be solved. And yeah, thank you for the friendly reminder that isolation or loneliness is not only for elderly people. It's like at any age we can be isolated.
oh,
And
absolutely.
of course.
Absolutely. And the first part of the pandemic was I lived alone, was very isolating, was very difficult. And I had people saying to me, "Oh, well, you're an introvert. You should like this." No, I'm still a human being. I need to see people. I need to go out and do things. I need to have human contact. I need a hug once in a while. Like this is, yeah, I don't.
I was thinking about. I was just dreaming and hallucinating. oh, oh, oh! Actually, hallucinating is a word that's used with AI
Yeah.
when AI is lying. That's
Yes.
called hallucinating.
Yeah.
Hallucinating that's a fact.
Yeah.
Okay, but I was just thinking about connection and belonging. What about let's imagine lonely people in the near future, any age, that might chat with an AI. They might have a lovely AI bot who's encouraging them to have connection with real human beings. So what if AI could help these people to actually, what if AI would have access that actually there's three nice people in your neighborhood living just near you who might be glad if you paid them a visit? Do you want to know their addresses? And blah, blah, blah. I mean, well, we all know like Tinder and stuff, like dating apps. But what about like connection apps, like relation, and I
Yeah.
know that there are friend apps, like no non-romantic relationships
Yeah.
apps
Yeah. Yeah.
also. And we
And
can
there's
choose
apps.
that.
There's
Mm,
there's apps like Meetup where you can go and do something with a bunch of other people. And I've made friends and met people through Meetup. I've used that a lot when I moved to Berlin to meet people in Berlin. Yeah, I think if it's helping us, what I'm concerned about is that we just further isolating and further damaging
yeah,
to people who are already in a fragile state of mind.
yeah,
And I'm concerned about the loss of our humanity, that and this increasing push
yeah,
towards oh, we'll just do a bot with that because we don't know how to talk to each other. And I know that that's part of the stuff that both you and I do with the arts and with improv, is helping people make connections and see each other's humanity and recognize,
yeah. And connection and belonging, and actually the feeling of belonging, like I'm included, I'm loved, not in a romantic sense, but I'm significant member of this group,
yeah,
whether it's a two-person group or a larger group. But people like me, people want me to be here,
yeah,
or they love me in a sense that they appreciate my input and what I am, what I
yeah,
present. So that's not all conveyed, or kind of not at all conveyed with words, actually.
no,
It's conveyed also with body language, with micro movements of our facial muscles. And for example, if I now look at you with kind of neutral eyes, it would look like this. And if I use friendly eyes, it looks like this. So of course, eventually AI robots can do that too, but still, I mean, there's words like harmonization or synchronization between human beings, that we are actually synchronizing our brain waves by by physical cues, by adjusting our movements, using our mirror cells, and
Yeah.
and and syncing in that sense. And that all that is part of the feeling that I belong here. I belong here with you.
Yeah.
And that's missing with AI, and it's going to be missing for a long time, maybe forever. I don't know.
Yeah. 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 At best it mimics, but yeah, it's not a replacement. It's not a substitute.
Maybe it's like if we think that human connection is here, like there are humans belonging, and they are kind of like a group of human beings. So AI could be mimicking it, like it's like, but also AI could be like helping this to be stronger. And I think our relationship with AI now is unclear.
Yeah.
That we are not prioritizing clearly enough the human connection.
Yeah. Well, and it concerns me that we're more focused on how to interact with AI than we are on how to interact with each other.
And how to tell stories about ourselves or our team or our organization,
Yeah.
or how to tell stories that are, well, it's so fashionable to say that everything is a story, and if you want to influence the world, you have to do a story. I would say stories are mostly lies.
They can
Like,
be, certainly. Yes.
yeah, they can be true stories, but are you being totally honest and candid and authentic in your social media posts, or are you filtering something out?
Oh, sure.
So in a sense, you would say you are not telling the whole truth. You are not being truthful or authentic, but you are choosing to tell a story that's presenting the idealistic picture of yourself.
Sure. Well, yes, and part of for me, part of what I leave out when I do a social media post is all the extraneous stuff, because I want to be concise.
Yeah.
So to tell the whole story, tell everything that happened, interaction that happened that led me to this point would
Well,
take
thank you.
would take a long time, and it's not that interesting, you know. And so there's a part about being concise. But yeah, I think that, and I think this is part of the thing with social media, is that people do present a, a filtered version of, you know, the pain and suffering they went through to have a particular success, you know,
Mm.
um, because it suits their perception of themselves, and that suits the image that they want to project onto the world. When the truth is, a lot of success comes with a lot of pain and suffering, you know, and
Mm.
there should be some honesty about that. Uh, Sorry, I just,
Of
the
course.
pain and suffering thing made me think of somebody recently asked me that question that you sometimes do at the beginning of meetings. Um, Three truths to tell, two truths and a lie,
Mm.
right? And I hate that. It's just, I don't, I'm not good at thinking on my feet like that. And so I have trouble, and I tend to be um, overly honest. And so I find it very difficult to come up with a lie that sounds believable, or that sounds believable to me at least. And when I've done it, you know, usually people guess which one the lie is, because I'm not good at lying.
But there are people who are really good liars, and I've been knowing some people. In my history, I have had like schizophrenic feelings about human beings. I know how they live their lives. I know them personally, and then I see their social media posts, and I can't recognize the everyday life from the posts.
Yeah.
Because in the posts they tell totally believable stories, and people are actually, they have followers, and people are kind of like, how can they do all that, and wow, and I'm nothing near to that. And people feel diminished when they read the wonderful stories and lies what they tell.
Yeah.
And there's almost no truth there, that they are only like idealistic dreams of what kind of life I would like to lead.
Yeah.
Instead of like I'm actually living that life.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not like all people are doing doing that.
No.
But stories are, I think they are a two-sided tool. They can be dangerous, that and not only like always good. And one thing about stories I've been hating all my life is that when you are applying for a grant or a job, you have to tell stories about the project you need money for. Or you have to, or as a startup, you have to have a pitch deck.
Yeah.
And kind of, what's the level of truth and the relationship with lies there? Like, are you, touching up your story a bit?
Yeah. Well, and what's going to happen if what you've laid out in the plan doesn't work? Because the plans never work. Like, let's be honest. Plans never work. So if something comes up, something just doesn't go, and so this is where, coming back to where we started this discussion, this is where taking an artistic or a creative approach and saying, oh, that didn't work. Where else? What else might I do? What am I really trying to achieve with this? What's my goal? And how there's more than one way to get there. And I think about when I started to paint in 2011, this activity that we were doing, it was at a leadership workshop, and we were creating these abstract paintings, and this was before pouring paint was a thing, and I started pouring this paint on my canvas. I had started with a brush. I didn't like the brush, and so I started pouring this really fluid liquid paint on my canvas and tipping it and making marble. And then we get to the end, and the person leading says, okay, now you need to create a focal point on your painting. And everyone else had used brushes and, and things and done it properly. Air quotes, done it properly. And the person leading comes up to me and says, comes up behind me and says, you're not going to be able to use this. She had a little tray of paint. I think one was gold and one was red, and little brushes. And we were supposed to use these little brushes and these little pots of paint to make a focal point on our paintings. And she comes up to me, and just says quietly in my ear, you're not going to be able to do that because there's too much paint. It's not going to work. There's too much paint to do that. I'm like, okay. And I agreed with her. I did. There was too much paint on my canvas. Taking a little brush with a little daub of red paint is not going to make any kind of difference. But the goal was to create a focal point, not to, put a daub of red paint on our canvas. So by the time the tray gets down to I do my little bow to the person across from me, but instead of taking a brush and, putting a daub of paint in this pool of paint that was on my canvas, I took my finger and wiped my finger through the canvas, that's my focal point. So sometimes we get too caught up in it has to go a certain way. No, it doesn't. What's our goal? What's our objective? Which is why I talked
Yeah.
about goals and objectives. What
Yeah.
are we trying to get to? There's lots of ways to get there. Do I know them all? No, I don't. But we'll find them together. So, but it was back to the painting thing. The leader comes up to me afterwards and says, "Oh, I love what you did there." Like, yeah, because the goal, I saw the goal as a focal point, not as putting a little daub of, metallic or red paint on my canvas. So, yeah, and so that's more interesting. To me is that, okay, so this is a great plan, but what are you going to do when it doesn't work?
Yeah.
So.
Hey, I can see. Well, thank you, Sriram, liking the stories are lies stuff. Yeah, that's kind of like a provocative thing to say. Yes. And June, truth, truths, and a lie, as any exercise, can be used for multiple purposes. And that's a beautiful one, challenging how people perceive us sometimes. Yes.
Yeah.
It can be used, and all the exercises invented can be used for many purposes.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and as we've been saying, like, I think there are good things with AI, benefits to its use. And I think that there are real problems with it. And so it's finding that middle road, right? As it is with everything, is finding the middle road, not going extreme one way or the other.
What are your thoughts? If you have been, watching this, listening this, what are your thoughts about connection, belonging, relationship, and AI? Like, anything you want to comment on that? Because it's like, I was just having, just a vision of an AI helping a team to actually communicate better, to work better together. Like, if a team, it's not like an individual relationship with AI, but kind of a multiple person relationship. A team is discussing with AI, okay, we have this situation here and we want to solve this problem. We have some friction here, or we want to have more psychological safety, and AI would be maybe giving them advice on that. I have never heard a situation like this. Have you?
I actually had somebody I know tell me that they, probably about a year and a half ago, tell me that they were using AI with their design team, and she felt like the AI, using the AI, was making the team stupid.
They were relying on it. Like, what next?
Well, it takes away the critical thinking, right? And you just accept the answer. So yeah, she felt like that it was making them stupid. So, which I thought was interesting. So, and certainly there's been some stuff written about AI sort of decreasing people's critical thinking. So this is a problem. This is a problem.
Can you use AI to help develop critical thinking?
Probably, but in the end, it's something we need to do ourselves. And I think about something I did last week and used AI for, because I just didn't have the time to go and do the research and figure it out myself, just because I was in back-to-back meetings and I needed an answer relatively quickly. And so I asked the AI, and it came back with an answer, and I kind of looked down like, yeah, that's probably what I would have come up with if I had 3 or 4 or 6 hours to do the research and dig through stuff and sit and reflect and things. So I like, yeah, this is a good enough answer. But I also didn't like that, because I always learn something when I sit back and reflect and go through I've been doing KM for 25 years. There's stuff I've forgotten, that I did, or remember sort of vaguely. Oh yeah, I did that for that client. I should go and pull that and go. And I'm always amazed at the depth that I went into when I, all these projects I did 15 years ago. It's like, oh wow, I did that. I'm going to use that. So AI doesn't have access to that. It doesn't have access to, and I'm not about to give it access to all of my files and all of my learnings, because I don't want, as much as I'm happy to teach and share, I think that, people need to learn that. Otherwise, we're just going to become these giant sponges.
You are not aspiring to be an immortal in a sense that we have a Stephanie bot.
No, I'm not.
Okay, me neither. But you know what? Our time is almost up.
It is.
And we are not immortal yet.
No, I have another meeting in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So we should wrap this up. We will be back next week.
Yes.
We are trying to figure out how to make this into a podcast that will be on the podcast platforms. We haven't figured that out yet.
Well, you can say if you have good tips on how to convert LinkedIn Live to a podcast and where to publish it, and for beginner guide, contact us and send us help.
Yeah, but we're having fun doing this, and it looks like from the comments and things, people are enjoying joining us on this journey, on this little trip. And so, yeah, but yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, can I do that? Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. I don't know what our theme is for next week. We'll have to sit down and figure out what our theme is next week. I'll post it on LinkedIn later on today. But thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.